The OldPreMeds podcast, session number 169. You're a non-traditional student entering the medical field on your terms. You may have had some hiccups along the way, but now you're ready to change course and go back and serve others as a physician. This podcast is here to help answer your questions and help educate you on your non-traditional journey to becoming a physician. Welcome to the OldPreMeds podcast. My name is Dr. Ryan Gray, your host here every week. Thank you for taking some time to listen to this podcast today. Hopefully you're not like our student last week who asked a question, who said that she listened to 105 episodes in 1 week. Hopefully you have been listening over a longer period of time. Or if this is brand new for you, thank you and welcome to the OldPreMeds podcast. Our podcast today is sponsored by Next Step Test Prep and their new admissions consulting for medical school. Now, if you've been listening to me for a while, you know that I offer myself one-on-one consulting with students, helping them with everything from application prep to just regular questions to personal statement editing and mock interviews. But I'm only one person, and every year I have to turn away a lot of students. And I've been trying to figure out how to be able to help more students. And when Next Step came to me earlier in 2018 about their desires to have an admissions consulting arm of their company, I jumped at the opportunity because I love Next Step. I've been building a relationship with them over 5 years now, I think, 6 years even, since I started the Pre-Med Years podcast. Students time and time again tell me that Next Step has worked wonders for them for their MCAT prep. And now I have an opportunity to help them with their admissions consulting. I've been helping them pick advisors to advise you. I've been helping them figure out how to advise students so that they kind of speak the same language I do. Their advisors are reading my books just to make sure that they understand my philosophies on things and so much more. So I'm excited that I get to be the director of curriculum over at Next Step Test Prep and their med school admissions consulting. If you think you want some help, or if you even just want a quick call, a consultation call with them to figure out maybe how they can help you, go over to nextsteptestprep.com, click on that med school admissions consulting button, and get that free admissions consultation with Next Step Test Prep. Let them know that you heard about them here on the OldPreMeds podcast, and it'll help you save a little money as well. All right, so let's jump into today's episode, which is all about the application process. Our student today is saying, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? They say, hey, Ryan, respectfully, no, you don't care for Dr. Gray. I've been out of undergrad for about 3 years now and graduated with a 3.03 overall GPA and a 2.504 science GPA and have taken the MCAT once and made a 499. I applied to a handful of MD schools during my senior year of undergrad and got one interview, but was ultimately not accepted. I then began working in a pediatric hospital surgical department as a PCT, transport mainly, running labs, etc., and took the summer to study for the MCAT with a formal professional study course, which shall not be named, and my score actually dropped to a 496. I then retook biochem, which I had made a D+ in undergrad, took biology 2, which my undergrad institution did not offer, and several other 300 to 400 level biology courses, totaling 27 hours in 4 semesters. My GPA was a 3.74 from those courses, so now we are looking at a 316 overall and a 297 science GPA. I worked full-time, volunteered at a local health clinic about 4 hours a week, and shadowed in the spare moments that I had. After a year of limited patient contact in the surgical department, I was hired as a clinical assistant orthotech in a private orthopedic practice where I have extensive patient contact. I then studied on my own for the MCAT for about 4 months and brought my score up to a 500. I finally felt prepared to apply and spent months fine-tuning my personal statement and EC essays and applied to 13 MD schools and 9 DO schools. I only got one interview to a DO school. I guess my question is, what the heck am I doing wrong? I have a strong upward trend, which I thought was a good thing. My MCAT score isn't great, but isn't that bad. And I have leadership experience, good rec letters, and what I thought was a good personal statement. Any insight would be appreciated because I'm at the point where if I don't get accepted to this school, to this one school, I'm looking at going back to school full-time, most likely in the form of biomedical science master's program, which I guess is a post-bacc and not an SMP because it doesn't have application/MCAT help, which is very difficult to swallow because I'm married and my wife's income is not enough to sustain us by itself. So I'm worried about accruing more debt. I appreciate your help. All right, so this is very interesting. This is one of those, I'm excited that we're working on a series called Application Renovation, and this student would have been a perfect candidate for that application renovation so that I could actually take a look at the application, because it's impossible to look at this question without looking at the personal statement, without looking at the extracurriculars, to really see what the student did to tell his or her story. Right? I don't know. I'll say that this student says, I thought I had a good personal statement, but I don't know. Right? Maybe they read my book, but I've read plenty of personal statements from students who have read my book, and the personal statements still are way far from where they need to be. Okay? So without seeing the extracurricular essays, without seeing the personal statement, I don't know the type of application you put in. You did get one interview, which is great, but let's look at the numbers. Let's look at these stats. So you have 27 hours at a 3.74. That's great. My recommendation is to do a little bit more because your science GPA is still below a 3.0. Do I think you need a master's program? Nope. I think you try, if you can, take some more undergrad classes, however you're doing your post-bacc, and get more hours in to bump that science GPA above a 3, get maybe your total post-bacc courses around 40 hours, if that'll work to get you above a 3.0 science GPA, because I think that is one thing that's really hurting you, is having a science GPA less than a 3.0. Let's talk about the MCAT. You go from a 499 to a 496 to a 500. Still not great. Not great at all. Why are you struggling with the MCAT? You said it's not terrible. Well, it's not, but it's a 500. Should that be preventing you from getting in? No, it shouldn't. I got an email yesterday, somebody who's going to be on the Pre-Med Years podcast, or I got an email a while ago, actually. I emailed him yesterday to come on the podcast from a student who got a 496 and was accepted to medical school. So it all depends on the story that you're putting forward with your application, with your secondary essays. When you applied, that wasn't talked about here. When did you actually apply? Did you apply later in the cycle, earlier in the cycle? There's so many moving parts to the puzzle, which is why jumping on a call with Next Step with one of their admissions consultants may help you to figure out maybe that they can help you instead of spending 50 grand on a master's program where you have to stop working. You save up a little bit of money and work with somebody who's going to help you put together the best application possible. So again, it's impossible to give specifics here because I don't see the personal statement. I don't see the extracurricular essays. I don't see the secondary essays. I don't know the timeline of when this student applied. But what I can see is that the science GPA is less than a 3.0. I would bump that up. I don't think you need a master's at this point because you're doing very, very well in your post-bacc classes. So keep doing that. Get above a 3.0 science. Keep doing that and moving forward. All right. That's a hard one to answer. The student really wants to do this, is trying to figure it out. And there are so many students out there who are trying to figure it out, who still have so many questions, which is why I teamed up with Next Step, because I can't help all of these students who are looking for help. And so if you are looking for help, go to nextsteptestprep.com, click on the admissions menu button, and get a free admissions consultation with them. All right, I hope that was helpful for you. If you have a question you want answered here on the podcast, again, go to premedforums.com, go to the non-traditional pre-med forum, make sure you register for an account, and I will hopefully get to your question at some point here on the podcast. Hope you have a great week. We'll see you next time here on the Old Pre-Meds podcast.